people that he trusts, and he wants to summon the country
to
his cause. We're going to toss it now.
I think it's pretty
to
cool.
World News Tonight anchor David
At
Muir,
the
own
moment
Lindsay
they
Davis,
are
and the
about to
team
go
for
to
the
the
special
speech, they're
coverage
actually showing the
of the
protesters
State of the
inside.
Union address. Stay tuned.
Tonight, President Biden's State of the Union address, his message to America and to the world.
ABC News special, The State of the Union.
At the end of the day, we know who we work for.
Epic.
The objective is to get things done.
Great
Tonight,
quote.
how will President Biden address the key issues facing our nation? The battle over the border,
It's real simple. It's time to act. It's long past time to act.
the economy, and jobs.
Nearly 15 million new jobs since I came to office.
But why are so many Americans not feeling it? The wars
Maybe because the dude's
overseas,
asleep at the wheel.
Israel and Gaza, Ukraine and Russia.
Before this started, they're like filming him going to the White House. Their commentary is so funny because he's like pumping his fist. They're like, "Oh, he's got the fist pump," and as you can see, he's old as fuck. You know, this is what we were told: is that he's gotten older.
I have never been more optimistic in my life about the prospects, what we can do if we just work together.
The mix on this is so funny. Bring the music down if you're going to have a mumbling on the quotes, guys.
Good evening from the nation's capital tonight. President Biden is just moments away from delivering his State of the Union address to the American people and, of course, to the world. He comes before the country tonight at a
For all we know,
moment in his
that's what he
presidency.
said.
Questions about
Because
his age, his
we could
rematch
barely
against
hear
Donald
that.
Trump now underway, with Trump set to clinch the Republican nomination after a near sweep on Super Tuesday this week. The national polling showing this is already a very close race.
For the
with Donald
Supreme
Trump
Court
in the lead.
justices didn't
We
show
have a
up, and I
powerhouse
just think
political
that's
team
funny.
right here with me tonight, and as you can see, the chamber already filling with lawmakers. The president's cabinet, members of the Supreme Court just moments ago coming in to the chamber. We saw Chief Justice John Roberts, Justice Sotomayor, Kagan, Justice Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, retired Justice Kennedy also there, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson also in attendance there tonight. And they're playing a role, as you know, in this presidential election, whether they would like to or not. Just this week, we saw them make that decision involving Donald Trump to keep him on the ballot across this country, saying Colorado could not take him off the ballot. They'll then take up another issue in the coming weeks about presidential immunity when it comes to. You can see George Santos is actually there in the chamber as well. We'll get to why he's there coming up here in our coverage. Of course, he was expelled by the House.
Yeah, any
so,
member
the
who's
question
ever
you might be
been
asking at home
a
is,
member
what
of
is he doing
Congress
there?
can
So
show
we'll
up.
ask
So
our team
of
right
course
here.
he's there.
We're expecting the
Because-
First Lady,
because
Dr.
he
Jill
did
Biden,
that
any
interview,
moment. Of course, the
right?
First
And he
Lady's,
literally
these
admitted, you
speeches
keep
always
giving me attention, that's why I won't go away. So then after that, nobody gave him attention, so here he is desperately coming back, trying to get attention.
Speaking to a deeply divided nation, and at the same time well aware that this is also kickstarting his re-election campaign. His every move tonight, his every
And the
word, his
gutless
energy
local news is
will
going
be
to, of
closely
course, be
studied
filming
with
him,
questions about his
because
age and whether
why
voters will
not?
give him a second term. The president's message tonight will focus on immigration, the southern border, abortion rights, the economy, millions of new jobs, wage growth, the stock market reaching new highs. But the president, this White House, well aware many Americans are still not feeling this. Rachel Scott is in the House chamber tonight. Rachel, what is the mood? And we understand that the Speaker of the House, who, by the way, will be the third speaker to stand behind President Biden for a State of the Union, has asked the House chamber, asked his colleagues
awesome.
to be respectful.
Exactly, David. This is going to be
It's,
a
what's
high-stakes
his
address
name?
for the president. And
Gary
we mentioned
Busey,
it when
bro.
President Biden
Where
enters
did he
this
come
chamber
from?
tonight. He'll be passing through what he knows is a deeply divided Congress, split on everything from immigration to funding for Ukraine. Inside of the chamber right now is a sea of white. Democrats wearing that color to show support for reproductive rights
And gray hair.
An issue we know the president will be putting front and center in his address tonight. Now, some members are also wearing tags with the number 153 on it. A member telling us that's the number of days since Israel was attacked by Hamas. Those tags are to show support for the Israeli hostages. And of course, you mentioned it, David, right behind the president tonight, a different and new Speaker of the House,
what I'm talking
Mike
about.
Johnson. He has been urging his Republican members to be respectful and civil tonight, saying
I think the main reason they're like, oh, we're going to wear white in
way into
favor
the
of
chamber, he told
abortion
us
is
that everyone will
because
be on their best
last
behavior,
year
but
they
David,
had
we will have to
Marjorie
see
Taylor
whether or not that
Greene
actually
dressed like a
happens.
baboon
Speaker
screeching
Johnson
at
holding an
Biden, and they
off-the-record
just
meeting
didn't want
with
that again,
reporters
so
and
they said
bankers
no
here in
white
Washington today. We can't get into
for
the
them.
details.
It'll
We
look like they're
appreciate the fact that they
pro-abortion
invite
if
us
they
in
wear it.
on the days of these big speeches, the president as well. But one thing Speaker Johnson did not mind us sharing, John, is his concern that this remain respectful tonight, hoping to uphold
Kamala was
the great
throwing shade at
traditions of
Johnson
these
real
State of the
hard right
Unions.
there. Well, he looked like he was trying to
civility
shatter up.
in the chamber. He wants decorum in the chamber. He has sent that message
Who
out.
cares?
And some of his members have received
Look,
it
he's got the
skeptically.
Israel pin on.
I mean,
Epic.
remember how raucous it was last year?
And in fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene, when pressed on this today, said, well, we'll just wait and see what the president has to say.
Wow,
So we'll
this
be watching
this
that.
literally
We saw
feels
the
like a
image of
cocktail
George
party for
Santos
the
there
elites
moments
right
ago. I
now.
want to bring Rachel Scott back in because, Rachel, the
This
obvious
guy's
question
asleep.
for people watching at home is,
Wake
what
up.
is he doing there?
Wake up, we got him. We woke
Exactly.
him up.
Many Americans may be remembering that Congressman George Santos was expelled from the House.
Who
He's facing
the
23
fuck
counts accused
cares?
of everything from credit card fraud to identity theft, lying to federal officials. He was expelled
Oh,
by
Jack,
his own fellow members who
it's
called
pretty
him
early
a
for Jack
disgrace.
right
Well,
now.
he decided to show back up today. As
He's
a
like, he
reminder
goes
here,
to the gym
former
around this
members
time.
do
So.
have privileges to be on the House floor, and Santos has kept his floor privileges despite being expelled. So he is allowed to be inside of the chamber tonight. I am spotting him right now. He is standing in the back here. He's not seated down with his former colleagues at all. He's standing in the back by congressional aides where Senate pages are standing right now. But he is inside of the chamber for this State of the Union address tonight, David.
So bottom line, you're welcome to the chamber, even if you're expelled.
You are welcomed into the chamber, even if you are expelled. The House rules actually say nothing about that at all. You are not allowed back in the chamber if you've been convicted of a crime or if you were a lobbyist. But the bottom line, even as a former member of the House that has been expelled by his colleagues, he is allowed to be here for the State of the Union address.
And ableist.
Extraordinary. It's 2024 in America. You saw that shot there of Senator Bernie
All
Sanders.
of this
there
just
ago,
because he
one of
was
the
too
many
fat to ride a
voices,
roller coaster.
offering advice, counsel to the White House, to President Biden, the Biden campaign.
The Biden
Mary, the
border
president, just
crisis.
moments
Oh
ago
my
saying
God.
he's feeling
Look at
good
how
as
many
he headed to
pieces
the
of
Capitol
flair
from the
these
White House.
people
Mary Bruce, our
need.
chief White House correspondent.
This is getting so
It's really hard to
tacky.
underscore just how significant this night will be for President Biden.
This is a huge and massively critical and pivotal moment for this president. He knows it. The White House knows it. The campaign
Where's Jasmine
certainly
Crockett?
knows it. Look, he is down in the polls to Donald Trump. He is facing these persistent concerns about his age. He certainly knows well that everyone is paying attention tonight, not just to what he is saying, but to how he is saying it. His challenge here is now to take advantage of this massive audience, perhaps the largest he'll have all year, to try and change the public perception. He has to sell skeptical voters on his accomplishments and also show the American people that he is up for another 4 years. I mean, bottom line, he has to bring it in this speech. Now, the campaign feels that at this point in the campaign that the American people aren't truly dialed into the race, that they haven't fully registered yet that we're heading for this Biden-Trump rematch. They know
like want to
these
treat
men,
it so much
but the
like
Biden
it's
team feels the
football.
American people are suffering from what they call Trump amnesia. This is the president's chance to change some of that. I'm told he won't
They
call
call
out
it
Donald
Trump
by name,
amnesia.
but
Shut
it'll be
up.
very clear
Shut the fuck
who
up.
he's talking about as he lays out their very different visions for the future of this country, David.
So, Mary, not
rules.
expected to draw on Donald Trump's name during this speech, but very likely to draw on contrasts between these two
the
men.
sigh and
As he
everything,
moves
man.
to the
Talk about
90s.
a guy
My
who
understanding,
hates
he
his
wants to
job.
do it while at the same time respecting the chamber.
He has to strike the right tone here. First of all, remember, this is a format which Joe Biden is very comfortable. He relished his time in the Senate and in Congress. He feels very comfortable in this environment, and he certainly respects Congress. And he also wants to strike a respectful tone, even as he is going to pressure Republicans to call them out on certain issues, especially on things like immigration. He also, of course, is doing this at a time that he's trying to court Republican voters to come to his side.
Second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, entering the chamber. The Vice President Kamala Harris up there. She'll stand behind the president, as she always does, but along with a new speaker this time, Speaker Mike Johnson. Of course, it was Kevin McCarthy a year ago. It was House Speaker Nancy Pelosi for the first address to a joint session of Congress. There, he's likely waving to his wife at the podium, perhaps Mike Johnson as well.
So
They're both up there together. Martha Raddatz, this is also a House chamber that hasn't always been welcoming. We had that moment last year. With Marjorie Taylor Greene, and
honestly, his last State of the
House
Union was his
really
best speech.
halted a couple
You know,
of key things that the president has
That's
tried to accomplish just in recent weeks. Aid to Ukraine,
fascist
large.
symbols.
They have halted that, saying you must act on the border first. Then the president encouraged Senate Republicans and Democrats to get that bill in front of them. They prepared a bipartisan border bill, very heavy security. He said he was ready to sign it, and then the House torpedoed it.
They torpedoed it because Donald Trump wanted it torpedoed. He wants this to be an election issue. He believes this is his issue and that he can dominate on that issue. And we talk about decorum. Obviously, we see the First Lady coming in there now, David.
If he does, if Mike Johnson tries to rip the notes up,
Jill Biden,
he's gonna like fail at being able to rip the paper and get really embarrassed. So they told him to make sure he doesn't do that.
She's going to be out there fighting for her husband too.
She absolutely will.
She's going to be out there fighting for her husband. Did they just say?
Behind his race again, 100%. And
fucking
his most important
weirdos,
top
bro.
surrogate. She is going to be out on the campaign trail heavily, I suspect, in the coming months, David.
Here's the gavel
They
here.
meant on the campaign trail where she's going to be
Speaker
fighting.
Mike Johnson, his first time in this role. Let's listen.
The president's cabinet.
Who cares?
The president's
I don't even know who that first guy is.
Secretary of State Anthony Blinken.
Oh, there's General
This will
Butt
bring you back to
Cancer.
This conversation, of course, Secretary Blinken on the world stage and has been for many months now, not only with Israel and Gaza, but with Ukraine.
I love
as well.
that you can't even see
And
the
again, a lot
fucking
of questions,
finance
even from within
secretary
their
because she's
own
totally
party about
like
the
just so
humanitarian
small behind
crisis
Blinken and
inside
in front of
Gaza. The
Lloyd.
president is expected to make major
What's her name?
news tonight
Yellen.
on Gaza.
Exactly. And what they want to do is set up a floating dock, a floating pier, so the U.S. can help get aid.
Yeah, if
into
anyone
Gaza
hasn't heard,
from
the
ships
U.S.
to
is literally
deliver
going
this
to build a
very,
dock
very
in
critical
Gaza
aid. People
where
are
they need the
starving
aid to
to
go
death in
because
Gaza.
Israel's
You
just
saw
won't let
Secretary
them fucking
Blinken there.
in.
He has been
They
so
block the
busy. He
roads
has
and
been
shit.
over to the region so many times. We also saw Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin there. We know he had some health problems. He did not tell the president he was in an ICU unit. He has made up for that. He has apologized for that, but they have both been very busy.
Blinken doesn't look like a
with
whip
Gaza,
dog today.
with
That's
Ukraine.
only
And as
when
you
he.
said,
That's only
that
after he
aid to
talks to
Ukraine
Netanyahu.
has been blocked. The border bill blocked. We talk about decorum, but the president walks
Oh my
in there
God.
with his own red wall of resistance. And this really is the Republicans.
That guy just
fully
stepped on
aware
somebody's
this
shoe.
is a huge event for President Biden. This is almost the beginning of the campaign.
They're
for him.
dragging
So
it out
whether
because it's
they
literally
maintain that
taking him this
decorum or
long
not,
to
we'll have
walk
to
from the
see.
front door.
And the question is,
He's
how
been
will
walking
it be
for 12
received, any
minutes
kind
now.
of behavior in this room? The American people often judge this with very different eyes. They're not inside the Beltway here in Washington.
Bezos.
They're watching from home. They know this is a deeply
Ted
divided
Cruz.
country. And as we all have heard so often on the trail, a lot of people say, we have a lot more in common than we have that separates us. And often we don't see that in our own lawmakers. So we'll keep that in mind as we move forward and watch this night. Lindsay Davis also with us here at the desk. We're expecting to hear the House Sergeant at Arms any moment, Lindsay, introduce the president. One of the things I know you've been looking into are the independents, the moderate voters, some of the Nikki Haley supporters just this week who seem to give an indication that they're not necessarily going to vote for the Republican nominee automatically.
Independent
Look at how
voters, as
big
you
the
well
federal
know, David,
cabinet is,
determine the
bro.
outcome of elections. We've seen it time and time again.
They're still
in
coming in.
2020, Joe Biden was able to win those independent
Oh,
voters.
they
over in
literally are
6
going to have their own
battleground states.
chit-chat
The prior election,
conversations now after the
2016,
cabinet gets
Donald
introduced
Trump
with
was able
everyone.
to win over independent voters in 6 of the battleground states. In particular, tonight, I'm interested in those free
They're
agent
still
Nikki
coming in,
Haley
bro.
voters. And is he going to be able to win them over, perhaps persuade them? Because as you were referencing on Tuesday, we saw
Are these
that
the aides
51%
too?
of them
Like,
said that
what
they
is?
actually approve of Joe Biden. 76% said that they oppose abortion bans. And so they are going to be listening very critically, I would imagine, to what he has to say. And by many stretches of imagination, this is an opening statement for them.
No question about it, Lindsay. And you saw Alejandro Mayorkas, Homeland Security Secretary, there moments ago, also in the chamber. And on immigration, a key issue tonight. Republicans, as we have reported here, spent months imploring President Biden to do something on the southern border. Then, of course, as we mentioned with Martha, the bipartisan border security bill, Republicans and Democrats, the president saying, get it to my desk, I will sign it. Only to have House Republicans there in the chamber tonight who halted that bill at Donald Trump's urging. And as Martha points out, that's likely because Donald Trump would like to keep immigration as an issue that is front and center come November. Tonight, Mary Bruce, President Biden will likely not shy away from immigration. It seems he recognizes there's.
I mean, like I said, last year's speech I think was his best speech he ever gave. I think especially it was amplified by the baboons preaching and him able to like riff with that.
And the kind of reforms that Republicans had been demanding for months, but then in stepped Donald Trump, urging Republicans not to take the deal. And of course, we know it has gone nowhere since then. It is interesting, of course, this comes just a week after Donald Trump and Joe Biden were both down at the border together, those dueling visits. President Biden again trying to up the pressure on Republicans to finally act on this issue. Of course, also trying to shift the blame to Republicans and Trump. And he did have that remarkable invitation asking Donald Trump to join him in this. I suspect tonight you will hear him again urge Congress to put politics aside to get this border deal done.
The Attorney General Merrick Garland there as well, who has also been a key figure in this administration. Under fire from some, given the investigations into Donald Trump, but has made the case that he has done this in an independent fashion. He has stayed far from the special counsels in all of these cases that are hard to track for people at home, I'm sure. He's there in the chamber as well. As you heard Rachel Scott point out, a number of white suits in the chamber tonight. Many of the Democratic lawmakers are wearing them, signal on reproductive rights. The president putting the blame on Donald Trump in recent days.
They can just keep recycling
the justices to the Supreme Court
every 3 minutes.
Overturned Roe.
Oh, look, he's non-binary.
The president says, are the ripple effects already being seen across the country?
Means,
of course, the debate in Alabama.
No,
that one is days, that
whatever.
State's highest court determining that frozen embryos are in fact
bisexual.
People. Clinics and hospitals in Alabama almost immediately halting IVF fertility treatments, the procedures right when women and their husbands
the worst part about this,
were in the middle of this process, and there has been a move across this country almost
the deals that they were vetoing are now what they're asking for in these negotiations now. And I think that's really just
and also
like what are you doing
tonight,
just
Rachel
like
Scott, you
just
spoke
a
young woman, a mother and wife in Texas who became the center of a major national story when doctors determined, and let's listen here at the door. We'll get back to you in a moment.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
There you have the moment. Bill McFarland, House Sergeant at Arms, introducing President
Chuck is behind him.
With his State of the Union address.
That ghoul. Here we go. Did he just say, he pointed to his name tag? What was that? Is that a certain like protest sticker he's got?
Escorting him down that center aisle as he shakes hands with members of both parties, I should say.
Oh my God, they're literally pulling him away from the Republicans now.
This is the kind of moment that fuels this particular president.
This is always a big moment, a big television.
Oh my God, this is so weird.
Circumstance. But the truth is, State of the Union addresses are often little noted and long remembered. They don't have a lasting impact. This one, David, tonight, it really feels different. He has a chance to prove to a skeptical country that he has what it takes, that he has the physical fitness, the mental fitness to go head-to-head in a very brutal, long campaign with Donald Trump and to serve another 5 years as president. So this feels like an incredibly consequential moment, especially also because of how late it is. It's March 7th. It's just after Super Tuesday. Rarely do you see, ever in my lifetime, you've seen a State of the Union address that actually doubles as effectively the kickoff for a presidential campaign.
And you mentioned
the Speaker of the House actually picks when the State of the Union address happens. So Speaker Johnson strategically picked after Super Tuesday.
And we've seen it in the polling. Americans across the country who say, we don't want either one of these men running for president. We want other choices.
I mean,
and yet this is where the country
anything
is right
exists
now,
in our imagination.
Which makes the stakes even higher tonight for him to try to convince some of those moderate independent voters that Lindsay was talking about, who he brought over before.
What is that?
Would he be able to do it again?
You have a hat on inside in Congress. Come on, have some respect for yourself.
That they don't want.
And she's going to screech at him. Look, they're all holding Israel pins.
They don't want to see.
Look, this guy. You got to press record.
Marjorie Taylor being there wearing her "Make America Great" hat and holding up the pin. We had an idea that Republicans in the House chamber, John, would have pins tonight.
Yeah,
we didn't even look at them.
Highlighting what they're calling Biden's failed
kiss the boys.
At the border.
Kiss the boys now.
Look, state of the decorum issue. So much has changed. I mean, I've been in the chamber for about a
Nobody
dozen
gives a fuck
of
about
these
Chuck
things, and
Schumer, so
I
he's sitting
fully
there with his
remember
hands in his
when
pocket.
Barack Obama had a big joint session speech on
I mean, come on, like,
healthcare, and
take
one
that
single
shit off
member yelled out,
inside.
"You lie!"
Have some
And
self-respect, you
it was
know?
this scandal.
It's
How
like
could
fucking
somebody
bringing in a fucking
and now
billboard.
every member is using this as an opportunity to make a moment for themselves.
You know, it sent
Oh, it's
shockwaves
Marjorie
back then,
Taylor
and
Greene.
it
Of
should
course
have.
it
You know,
is.
that was
That's her, right?
It's
I
quite
can't
funny.
tell
It was
because
a
of the
single
fucking
member.
hat
Yeah,
casting a
unfortunately
shadow
now
on her
it's become a
face.
little more of the norm than not.
Oh, there he
Marjorie
goes.
Taylor
Now
Greene
he's looking
talking
at
with
her.
the president right now. Somebody there tapping the president on the shoulder, Martha Raddatz, and saying, "Keep moving."
Keep moving. But
Don't give the baboon attention. I want to know what she said. That's what I care about, not all this other bullshit.
It's putting decorum aside right away. But in so many ways, and we talk about this is not only the State of the Union, this is the state of Joe Biden, because that's what everybody's going to be looking at tonight. How does Joe Biden handle this? Is he vigorous? Does he have the mental acuity that everybody's looking for? Last year, as we sat here, he gave a very powerful speech, got good marks for that. But again, this is a very different speech at a very different moment when voters are really, really looking at the president, both Democrats and Republicans.
Oh, come on.
This is a patient president at
This
this point,
reminds
too. He's
okay, so
taking a
there's
number of
this funny
selfies on his way.
there's this funny thing. It's with this Assad school, like I forgot her names, but she's like she makes this post. It's just Assad like holding his arms up to take a selfie, and she's like, "Assad is so charismatic. This guy wanted so badly to take a picture with Assad. So what does Assad do? He takes his phone and takes the selfie." Oh, she's also be like, "Yeah, but he couldn't do it because Assad is so tall." And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, he's not gonna fuck you. You know that, right?
To run as a third-party candidate or an independent candidate, John. He said the stakes were too high.
Stakes were too high, and Democrats firmly believe that a third-party candidacy.
I have no idea, actually.
Or elects once again.
I only know the
Donald
one guy,
Trump.
and I know his face and not
looking
name.
at Biden here, you got to consider. I haven't been able to go back and count each and every one, but I believe this may be his 50th State of the Union address. He's been in the chamber,
and he would be proud of that, by the way. Senator Coons there,
turf.
Senator Coons, Senator Gillibrand. Republicans and Democrats welcoming here to the center aisle. We always like to see that. Rachel Scott, you're in the chamber. So far, so good.
So far, so good, David. So far. And look here, the coveted seats here are along the aisles. That's where you're seeing members sort of rush to the aisles to try and greet the President of the United States. Notable on the Republican side, you saw some of the most conservative, right-wing
22
members
minutes.
of the House. Congressman
Speech
Matt
still hasn't
Gaetz,
started yet.
Congressman Tim Burchett.
See, oh look, he's so charismatic, just like Bashar al-Assad.
Keep the president's attention, to shake his hand, possibly deliver a message that they want the president to share tonight. You're hearing these chants now of 4 more years from Democrats tonight. A very stark reminder at what the president is heading into this critical election year. What is at stake? This is very much also about making an appeal to the American people in a very critical election year where he will be likely facing off against former President Donald Trump, David.
Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson there, greeting the Chief Justice John Roberts as well with President Biden. Of course, they have a major decision, Justice Kagan there as well, a major decision looming here in the next couple of weeks. They'll begin hearing arguments in Donald Trump's federal January 6th case, the election interference case, and whether or not he has absolute immunity. Judge Gorsuch, Judge Kavanaugh, both with smiles on their faces, greeting the president.
That lady has 3 cameras.
But it's always nice to see in these deeply polarized moments in our country when so far things play out the way they're supposed to. There you see the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and we'll stick with the president here, but we did see Nancy Pelosi talking with Mitch McConnell just before we came on the air tonight. Sort of a signal there, John Carl, of a changing guard. Nancy Pelosi obviously out of the speakership for a time now, and Mitch McConnell revealing that he will step down this week.
I mean, what a changing of a guard, seeing the two of them, really two of the most powerful figures in Congress.
Think what this speech needs is some profanity.
McConnell and Pelosi,
you know, because like if he's bringing profanity to the State of the Union,
Pelosi with health care,
that's going to show he's even more edgy than Trump.
All that President Biden got through Congress in his first 2 years. Mitch McConnell, the longest Senate leader in history, 17 years.
And it was nice to see McConnell and Pelosi engaged with one another, you know, in
They had a
heavy
good
discussion.
Drink every time you
And by the way,
whisper,
they were
goes.
together on January 6th as the Capitol was attacked, and they were evacuated.
Oh my God!
Congress back.
We
in
need to talk
session
about October
and
7th next.
Start the certification of the
You
presidential election
famously
that Trump
said
supporters were trying to
that
stop.
the name Fredo was like the N-word for Italians.
Yes, that was a mistake.
You
It's off the
famously
record
said
today that, you know, my own staff knows I feel very much at home up on the Hill.
And that shows here tonight, absolutely. And they think that that is something that will
also a half
play
audio,
to his
too.
strengths here as he does deliver what is expected to be a very, very important speech for you.
Let's listen as Speaker Mike Johnson plays his role.
Only one in. That's why my headphones felt funny.
Handing the Speaker a speech, handing the Vice President the State of the Union address as well.
Okay. Ah, fascist symbols. I do think he's one of the best smilers out of all the presidents. Look at him. He hates it. He's trying to get order of his house. Nobody listened. They just kept clapping. He's literally cucking him. He's applause cucking him in his own chamber.
Smart. I go home now. Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans. In January 1941, Franklin Roosevelt came to this chamber to speak to the nation. And he said, I address you at a moment unprecedented.
Why is he dressing them up?
Hitler was on the march. War was raging
Oh my God.
in Europe.
Please say Trump is
President
Hitler.
Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people that this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Now
I'm
it's we who
FDR.
face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union. And yes, my purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that
When are
this
you
is
waking
no
up?
ordinary moment either. Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War.
Oh, I was like, is he going to mention Lincoln next? And I didn't say it.
As they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time. Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march.
Fuck yes.
Invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not. But Ukraine.
Let's go.
Ukraine can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine and provide the weapons that needs to defend itself. That is all. That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American soldiers. In fact, there are no American soldiers at war in Ukraine, and I'm determined to keep it that way. But now, assistance to Ukraine is being blocked
by
those
this
who want to
asshole
walk away
behind me.
from our world leadership. Wasn't long ago when a Republican president named Ronald Reagan thundered, Mr. Gorbachev,
Tear down the wall.
tear down this wall.
Epic. Bro.
Now,
We're invoking all the best leaders today, I guess.
now my predecessor, a former Republican president. That's a quote. A former president actually said that bowing down to a Russian leader, I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable. America is a founding member of NATO.
You are
military
NATO,
alliance
bro.
of democratic nations.
It's the EU military
created
if
after
you
World War
leave.
II to prevent war.
That's
Peace.
probably the dumbest part
Today,
of wanting to leave
we've made
NATO
NATO
is
stronger than
you're
ever.
you're
Welcome
basically saying
Finland to the
EU is getting
alliance
its own
last
army
year.
now. Like you're literally making a competitor, like from the American
Sweden
state
officially
perspective,
joined,
obviously.
And
Like
their
I don't
minister
really
is
give
here
a fuck
tonight. Can I stand up?
if the EU has an army.
Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh yeah, Sweden is there right now. I forgot. I just was looking at that.
And they know how to fight. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to NATO, the strongest military alliance the world has ever
Defensive
seen.
cartel.
I say this to Congress, we have to stand up to Putin. Send me a bipartisan national security bill. History is literally watching. History is watching. If the United States walks away, it will put Ukraine at risk. Europe is at risk. The free world will be at risk.
Ukraine is already at risk. They're literally under invasion, bro.
My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away. We will not bow down. I will not bow down. In a literal sense, history is watching. History is watching. Just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th, when insurrectionists stormed this very Capitol and placed a dagger to the throat of American democracy. Many of you are here on that darkest of days. We all saw with our own eyes the insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War. But they failed.
Put in the Castro. Bro, you're throwing. Yeah, right? He's like, yeah, bro, I was watching like Hassan to preview some stuff, and he made this joke like it would be really like it could get real funny if one of the fucking guys running died.
The threat to democracy must be defended. My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. This is the moment to speak the truth and to bury the lies. Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win. As I've done ever since being elected to office, I ask all of you without regard to party to join together and defend democracy. Remember your oath of office is defending against all threats, foreign and domestic. Respect free and fair elections, restore trust in our institutions, and make clear political violence has absolutely no place in America, zero place.
Kind of founded on political violence there, pal. But as long as it's not against the politicians, is what he means.
It's not hyperbole to suggest history is watching. We're watching. Your children and grandchildren will read about this day and what we do. History is watching another assault on freedom. Joining us tonight is Latoya Beasley, a social worker from Birmingham, Alabama. 14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to the miracle of IVF. She scheduled treatments to have that second child.
Right next to the first
The Alabama
lady.
Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait What her family got through should never have happened. Unless Congress acts, it could happen again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like hers. To my friends across the aisle, don't keep this waiting any longer.
Yeah, like I said, normally his State of the Union is okay compared to like he did a really good speech under a bridge that I think was also really good. They hype him up before this, you know. They put a bag of meth right up his ass.
Like most Americans, I believe Roe v. Wade got it right. I thank Vice President Harris for being an incredible leader, defending reproductive freedom, and so much more. Thank you. My predecessor came to office determined to see Roe v. Wade overturned. He's the reason it was overturned, and he brags about it. Look at the chaos that has resulted. Joining us tonight is Kate Cox, the wife and mother from Dallas. She's become pregnant again and had a fetus with a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kate that her own life and her ability to have children in the future were at risk if she didn't act. Because Texas law banned her ability to act, Kate and her husband had to leave the state to get what she needed. What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening in too many others.
Oh my God, what is that thing next to
the
her?
freedom to choose, criminalizing
Swamp
doctors,
monster.
forcing survivors of
Is that
rape and
fucking
incest
swamp thing?
to leave their states to get the treatment they need. Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising to pass a national ban on reproductive freedom. My God, what freedom else would you take away? Look.
Everything.
It's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following. And with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that.
Yeah, that's all I hear. So what's one of the things like when I'm editing stuff, that's a lot of things that I look for is like those types of like mouth noises, right? So like, it's like squeaky shoes on a basketball court. When I hear someone slurping like that, it gets under me quick.
Clearly. Those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue about the power of women. But they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024. If you, the American people, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
That's cool, because he acknowledged that it literally is up to Congress, not him. Send me a Congress. I'll make sure. No, Congress will make sure, bro. They're the ones who write it.
You cannot go back. I'm here tonight to show what I believe is the way forward, because I know how far we come. 4 years ago next week, before I came to office, the country was hit by the worst pandemic and the worst economic crisis in a century. Remember the fear, record losses?
No, people have moved on.
Remember the spikes in crime and the murder rate, raging virus that took more than 1 million American lives.
People have moved
loved
on.
Ones, millions left behind. The mental health crisis of isolation and loneliness. A president, my predecessor, failed the most basic presidential duty that he owes to American people, the duty to care. I think that's unforgivable. I came to office determined to get us through one of the toughest periods in the nation's history. We have. It doesn't make news in 1,000 cities and towns. The American people are writing the greatest comeback story never told.
Got to cough after every sentence, bro.
Tell it here and now. America's comeback is building the future of American possibilities, Building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down.
Oh, he still got that
Investing
line.
in all America, in all Americans, to make sure everyone has a fair shot. We leave no one behind. The pandemic no longer controls our lives. The vaccine that saved us from COVID are now being used to beat cancer, turning setback into comeback.
Damn.
That's what America does. That's what America does. Folks, my inherited economy is on the brink. Now our economy is literally the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs in just 3 years, a record, a record.
Yeah, because of COVID.
Unemployment.
Restoring jobs
At
that
50
existed
years
before
old.
COVID.
A record 16 million Americans are starting small businesses, and each one is a literal act of hope.
Hey, that's us.
With historic job growth and small business growth for Black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting.
If you're going to mention infrastructure,
manufacturing capital
you're going to mention your infrastructure bill, bro?
More people have health insurance today. More people have health insurance today than ever before.
Mm-hmm. Should be free.
The racial wealth gap is as small as it's been in 20 years. Wages keep going up. Inflation keeps coming down. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world, and tending lower.
Their groceries still are the same price than when it did raise.
The landing is and will be soft. And now, instead of importing foreign products and exporting American jobs, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Right here in America, where they belong. And it takes time, but the American people are beginning to feel it. Consumer studies show consumer confidence is soaring. Buy America has been the law of the land since the 1930s. Past administrations, including my predecessor, including some Democrats as well in the past, failed to buy American. Not anymore. On my watch, federal projects that you fund, like helping build American roads, bridges, and highways, will be made with American products and built by American workers.
See? Proving me right. People don't know what that means. Thank you for showing me that you don't know what that means. Uh-huh. Lowering inflation does not mean cost of goods.
The United States is investing more in research and development than ever before. During the pandemic, a shortage of semiconductors, chips, that drove up the price of everything from cell phones to automobiles. And by the way, we invented those chips right here in America. Well, instead of having to import them, private companies are now investing billions of dollars to build new chip factories here in America, creating tens of thousands of jobs.
Now you gotta mention your
Many of those
infrastructure bill.
jobs paying $100,000 a year and don't require a college degree. In fact, my policies have attracted $650 billion in private sector investment in clean energy, advanced manufacturing, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America. And thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with you. I'm with you. If any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know. Modernize our roads and bridges, ports and airports, public transit systems. Removing poisonous lead pipes so every child can drink clean water without risk of brain damage.
Without risk of brain damage, like me.
Providing affordable high-speed internet for every American, no matter where you live, urban, suburban, or rural communities, in red states and blue states. Record investments in tribal communities. Because of my investment in family farms, Because our investment and family department, led by my Secretary of Agriculture, knows more about this than anybody I know. We're better able to stay in the family for those farms and their children and grandchildren won't have to leave home to make a living. It's transformative. The great comeback story is Belvedere, Illinois, home to an auto plant for nearly 60 years. Before I came to office, the plant was on its way to shutting down. Thousands of workers feared for their livelihoods. Hope was fading. Then I was elected to office, and we raised the Belvedere repeatedly with auto companies, knowing unions would make all the difference. The UAW worked like hell to keep the plant open and get these jobs back, and together we succeeded. Instead of auto factories shutting down, auto factories reopening, a new state-of-the-art battery factories being built to power those cars there at the same.
He's trailing off. He's losing it. They need to get him in there and shove another bag of meth up his ass.
The folks of Belvedere, I say, instead of your town being left behind, your community is moving forward again. Because instead of watching auto jobs of the future go over
Hello.
4,000 union jobs.
He been spitting.
Are building the future in Belvedere right here in America.
Mr. Belvedere. Oh, that's the auto guy.
Is UAW President Sean Fain, a great friend and a great labor.
Anytime he says that, I think Sinn Fein. And Dawn Sims, a third-generation worker, UAW worker at Belvedere. Sean, I was proud to be the first president to stand on the picket line, and today, Dawn has a good job in her hometown, providing stability for her family and pride and dignity as well. Showing once again, Wall Street didn't build Considering
America.
we used
They're
to
not
have
bad guys.
these
They didn't build it,
corporations
though.
shoot
The middle
pictures,
class built the country,
and that was legal with their own
unions built the
military.
middle class. I say to the American people, when America gets knocked down, we get back up. We keep going.
America doesn't get knocked down, bro. What are you talking about? Are you talking about what, the World Trade Centers when they got knocked
That's
down?
you, the American people.
It's the only thing that's been knocked down.
It's because of you America's coming back. It's because of you our future is brighter. It's because of you that tonight we can proudly say the state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
And gay. Strong and gay.
We are both brain broken because that's what I thought too.
Yeah, I heard it.
Cringe.
Tonight, I want to talk about the future of possibilities that we can build together. A future where the days of trickle-down economics are over and the wealthy and the biggest corporations no longer get all the tax breaks. And by the way, I understand corporations. I come from a state that has more corporations invested than every one of your states in the state of the United States combined. And I represented it for 36 years. I'm not anti-corporation, but I grew up in a home where trickle-down economics didn't put much on my dad's kitchen table. That's why I determined to turn things around so the middle class does well. When they do well, the poor are way up and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. And there's more to do to make sure you're feeling the benefits of all we're doing. Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world.
Yep, we knew
It's
this was
wrong,
going to happen.
and I'm ending it.
Good.
Just legalize free healthcare.
Was the law?
Oh, somebody had
that
a
I
Ukraine
proposed
flag
and
like draped
signed,
over them. Kind of
Not
cringe.
one of you Republican buddies voted for it. We finally beat Big Pharma. Instead of paying $400 a month or
That was
thereabouts for
MTG yelling,
insulin
I think.
with diabetes, and it only costs $10 to make, they only get paid $35 a month.
Do you see
now and still make
MTG is in
healthy
a mega hat?
I saw it in someone mentioned in the chat, but I wasn't looking when it came up.
I want to cap
Yeah, you'll see her when it goes to the crowd. She's wearing all red with a fucking hat on.
My screen is completely dimmed because what I'm doing is very illegal in Minecraft, of course.
People have talked about it, but finally we got it done and gave Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices on prescription drugs, just like the VA is able to do for veterans. That's not just saving seniors money, it's saving taxpayers money. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion.
Destroyed West and South Asia.
Because Medicare will no longer have to pay those exorbitant prices to Big Pharma. This year, Medicare is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs on the market that treat everything from heart disease to arthritis. It's now time to go further and give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for 500 different drugs over the next decade.
Sounds good to me. They should start with insulin.
Money, guys.
Yeah, that's actually the first thing that he did, is insulin.
It will be extremely profitable. Well, not only
Good, because if it's something you're
lives,
born with,
taxpayers another $200 billion.
Go on.
Ability at that point.
Next year, the same law caps total prescription drug costs for seniors on Medicare at $2,000 a
The
year.
insulin thing. I'm trying to
Even
think
for
what I was gonna
expensive
say.
cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000.
Oh, they were asking.
I
Remember,
want to
we were
cap
watching
prescription drug
something,
costs
and
at
it was somebody
$2,000
saying
a
that
year
they
for
pay
everyone.
a percentage of the same drug in Canada, and they still make a profit.
Folks,
Yeah. It was us. Yeah.
I'm gonna get
He
in
was
trouble
saying
for
that they
everything you
definitely
want to
still
get
make a
here
profit,
from
but they
Toronto,
charge.
Yeah.
I think it was
Berlin,
1400% more.
I mean, excuse me.
Insane.
And, well, even Moscow, probably.
Ah.
Deal.
What happened? Get this out of here. I actually fast forwarded a little because I paused earlier and I clicked live, but that's fine.
Over 100 million of you can no longer be denied health insurance because of pre-existing condition. Well, my predecessor, and many in this chamber, want to take this prescription drug away by repealing Affordable Care Act.
Wait, is this Jack character development? You
gonna let that
don't think fat people should just go bankrupt?
We stopped you 50 times before, and we'll stop you again.
That's not what I said.
In fact, I'm not only protecting it, I'm expanding it.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Tax credits of $800 per person
tax
per year
credits.
reduce healthcare costs for millions of working families.
Good.
That tax credit expires next year.
And it
I want
will.
to make that savings permanent.
It's so crazy that they like have the speaker
state the
behind
obvious.
there to like
Women are
show
more
that
than
he's
half our
pro-starving
population.
children,
But research on women's
because
health
he can't
has
clap
always
because
been
it will be
underfunded.
bad form for the
That's why we're
Republicans
launching
to
the
applaud
first ever
something
White House
Biden
initiative
did.
on women's health research, led by Jill.
It's
Doing
very
an
funny.
incredible job as First Lady.
Oh, she's touching Swamp Thing. Swamp Monster.
To pass my plan for $12 billion to transfer women's health research and benefit millions of lives all across America. I know the cost of housing is so important to you. If inflation keeps coming down, mortgage rates will come down as well, and the Fed acknowledges that. But I'm not waiting. I want to provide an annual tax credit.
Fuck the Fed.
That will give Americans $400 a month for the next 2 years as mortgage rates come down, to put toward their mortgages when they buy their first home or trade up
Buy
for a
their
little
first
more
home.
space. Just for 2 years.
He was definitely open strong, and now he's fallen off.
And my administration
Yeah, his
is
perks
also
are running off.
eliminating title insurance on federally backed mortgages. When you refinance your home, you can save $1,000 or more as a consequence. For millions of renters, we're cracking down on big landlords who use antitrust law, who break antitrust laws.
Nice.
By price fixing and driving up rents. We've cut red tape so builders can get federally financing, which is already helping build a record 1.7 million new housing units nationwide. Now pass. Now pass and build and renovate 2 million affordable homes and bring those rents down.
It sounds pretty good.
The rent is too damn high.
To remain the strongest economy in the world, we need to have the best education system in the world. And I suspect all
Education reforms?
Want to give a child, every child, a good start by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. You know, I think I pointed out last year.
Boo.
I think I pointed out last year that children coming from broken homes where there's no books, they're not read to, not spoken to very often, start school, kindergarten, or first grade, having heard 1 million fewer words spoken. Well, studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more
That's a
likely to finish
fucking
high
wild
school,
statistic.
to earn a 2- and 4-year degree, no matter what their background is.
I dozed off. Republicans love when children are starved and sexually assaulted. True.
I met a year and a half ago with the leaders of the Business Roundtable. They were mad that they were angry.
They won't do that, though.
Discussing
Zoning laws getting loosened? Hell no.
why I wanted to spend money on education. I pointed out to them as vice president, I met with over 182 of those folks. Don't hold me to the exact number. And I asked them what they need most, the CEOs. And you've had the same experience on both sides of the aisle. They say a better educated workforce, right? So I looked at them and I say, I come from Delaware. DuPont used to be the 8th largest corporation in the world. And every new enterprise they bought, they educated the workforce to that enterprise. But none of you do that anymore.
Boo, DuPont, boo.
Providing you the opportunity for the best educated workforce in the world. And they all looked at me and said, I think you're right. I want to expand high quality tutoring and summer learning to see that every child learns to read by 3rd grade. I'm also connecting local businesses and high schools so students get hands-on experience and a path to good paying job, whether or not they go to college. And I want to make sure the college is more affordable.
Local businesses can
Let's
recruit right out of high
increasing the
school.
Pell Grants to working and middle-class families and increase
UT classes start being taught in
HBCU,
kindergarten.
and minority-serving institutions, including Hispanic institutions.
Frankenstein.
When I was told I couldn't universally just change the way in which we dealt with student loans, I fixed 2 student loan programs that already existed to reduce the burden of student debt for nearly 4 million Americans, including nurses, firefighters, and others in public service. Like Keenan Jones, a public educator from Minnesota, who's here with us tonight. Keenan, where are you? Keenan, thank you. He's educated hundreds of students so they can go to college. Now he's able to help, after debt forgiveness, get his own daughter to college. And folks, look.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is just his campaign speech.
Such relief is good for
No, that's what this is.
That's what
Yeah, like, so this is pretty much everything I expected.
Yeah, so this is like the first big speech that he'll get before the elections. But what you need to keep in mind is Johnson picks the date of this speech, right? So he thought it would be strategically popular.
Yeah, I heard you explaining this because I was watching. So I heard you explain that. So yeah, it makes sense that they would strategically place it after Super Tuesday. It makes sense.
The question of fundamental fairness for all Americans.
But he's doing pretty well.
I've been delivering real results in fiscally responsible ways. We've already cut the federal deficit. We've already cut the federal deficit over $1 trillion.
Never.
I signed the bipartisan deal to cut another $1 trillion in the next decade.
They keep making Lloyd stand up and down and, keep sitting back down on his butt cancer.
Finally beginning to pay their fair share.
Mike Johnson has like been so smug and rolling his eyes behind him.
Look, I'm a capitalist. You want to make or can make a million or millions of
Okay,
bucks,
Nancy
that's great.
Pelosi.
Just pay your fair share of taxes.
Well, I agree with paying taxes for
A
billionaires.
fair tax code is how we invest things and make this country great. Healthcare, education, defense, and so much more. But here's the deal. The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut, overwhelmingly benefit the top 1%, the very wealthy, the biggest corporations, and exploded the federal deficit. They added more to the national debt than any presidential term in American history. Check the numbers. Folks at home, does anybody really think the tax code is fair?
Burn.
Do you really think the wealthy and big corporations need another $2 trillion
It's funny when
break?
Mike Johnson has to bite his lip behind him.
I sure don't. I'm going to keep fighting like hell to make it fair. Under my plan, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay additional penny in federal taxes. Nobody, not one penny. And they haven't yet.
Kamala is a good hype man, I gotta say.
The child
Hype
tax
woman.
bill that I passed
Gotta
during
be
the pandemic
progressive,
cut
right?
taxes for millions of working families and cut child poverty in half. Restore that child tax credit. No child should go hungry in this country.
Whenever Joe says something vaguely social democratic, I imagine that North Korean news
To make
host
big
is gassing
corporations
him
and the
up.
very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Remember in 2020, 55 of the biggest companies in America made $40 billion and paid zero in federal
Crazy
income
that an
tax.
actual
Zero.
dominionist is behind
Not
this
anymore.
guy.
Thanks to the law I wrote and we
Oh,
signed,
and you know
big
what? I
companies
realize
have
people
to pay
can't
a
see him
minimum of
biting his lips
50%.
since Jack joined.
But that's still less than working people pay in federal taxes. It's time to raise corporate minimum tax to at least 21%.
Oh, there he goes, biting his lip.
So
There's MTG with her mega hat.
begins to pay their fair share. Also on end
I
tax
missed it
breaks for
again.
big pharma, big oil, private jets.
Oh, you'll
massive
see it
executive
after
pay when it's only
in
supposed to be
photos.
$1 million that can be deducted. They can pay them $20 million if they want, but deduct $1 million. End it now. You know, there are 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what the average federal tax is for those billionaires? No. They're making great sacrifices, 8.2%. That's far less than the vast majority of Americans pay. No billionaire should pay a lower federal tax rate than a teacher, a sanitation worker, or a nurse.
I think that's a pretty fair statement. Most people will agree with that.
I propose
Oh, I keep on saying, like, what do I keep seeing out of this? And it's this guy with his
25%.
cane. It's the one guy
You know
who
what that
took a
would
selfie
raise?
with him.
That would raise $500
He
billion
keeps standing up and
over the next
raising his
10
cane,
years.
which is kind
But
of
imagine what that could do
weird,
for
considering
America.
that at one point
Imagine
someone
the
was beat
future
to death with a
with
cane in
affordable
this
child
chamber.
care. Millions of families can get.
That is
they
very
need to go
true.
to
That
work
is very,
to
very
grow
true.
the economy.
I
Imagine
think
the
I'm going to
future
bail though. I got to
paid
go.
because
Okay.
no one should have to choose
I'll
between
catch you guys later.
working and taking care of their sick family member. Imagine the future of hope. Put fewer chips in it. No, I'm not joking. It's called shrinkflation. Pass Bobby Casey's bill and stop this. I really mean it. You probably all saw that commercial on Snickers bars. You get charged the same amount, and you got about, I don't know, 10% fewer Snickers in it.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Look,
I
I'm also
literally
getting rid
just
of
started
junk
chewing
fees.
Jack out because he
Those
ended the
hidden
stream. I
fees.
was like, bro, we were supposed to capitalize on people looking that shit up and seeing there was a live stream.
At the end
Now people are going to get halfway through and see it ends. They're going to be mad.
of your bill, they're there without your knowledge. My administration announced we're cutting credit card late fees from $32 to $8. Banks and credit card companies are allowed to charge what it costs them to instigate the collection. And that's more a hell of a lot like $8 and 30 some dollars. They don't like it. Credit card companies don't like it.
I'm going to take his
But I'm
controls
saving
away.
American families $20 billion a year with all the junk fees I'm eliminating. Folks at home, that's why the banks are so mad. It's
Yeah, I can
$20
edit the two
billion
vids
in
together, but the
profit.
point was that it would the people would
I'm not
capitalize on
stopping
clicking
there.
the VOD.
My
Duh.
administration has proposed rules to make cable,
Now I have to
travel,
do work.
utilities, and online ticket sellers tell you the total price up front, so there are no surprises. It matters. It matters. And so does this. In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now. What are you against? 100 more high-tech drug detection machines to significantly increase the ability to screen and stop vehicles smuggling fentanyl into America. That's killing thousands of children. This bill would save lives and bring order to the border. It will also give me and any new president new emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming. The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know you know how to read. I believe that given the opportunity for a majority in the House and Senate would endorse the bill as well, a majority right now. But unfortunately, politics has derailed this bill so far. I'm told my predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win. He viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him. It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really.
She helped him out there. He was doing a vocal flub, and she gave him an opportunity to actually pause and fix it.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand. But look, if we change the dynamic at the border, people pay these smugglers $8,000 to get across the border because they know if they get by and let into the country, it's 6 to 8 years before they have a hearing. And it's worth taking the chance of the $8,000. But if it's only 6 weeks, the idea is it's highly unlikely that people will pay that money and come
I know,
all that
right?
way,
It's so
knowing that
funny.
they'll be able to be kicked out quickly. Folks, I would respect.
He literally was like, "You killed Lincoln Riley."
My Republican friends owe it to the American people. Get this bill done. We need to act now.
Remember when I covered Lincoln Riley and I said, just wait, this is going to be a narrative from the Republicans, this specific woman. Now they're tokenizing her murder here.
And if my predecessor is watching, instead of paying politics and pressuring members of Congress to block the bill, join me in telling the Congress to pass it. We can do it together. But that's what here's what he will not do. I will not demonize immigrants saying they are poison in the blood of our country. I will not.
He should have said, I won't quote Hitler and say they're poisoning the blood of our country. He's really falling apart, but he's saving it
people
because they
because
give
of
him
their
breaks
faith.
from clapping.
Unlike my predecessor on my first day in office, I introduced a comprehensive bill to fix our
Yeah,
system. Take a
exactly.
look at
Shut
it. It
up.
has
You're
all
letting
these
him
and
get away
more.
with this floundering.
Secure the border. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, and so much more. But unlike my predecessor, I know who we are as Americans.
He needs to
We're
say
the
that
only
Trump
nation in the
only
world
stopped
with a heart and
legal
soul that
immigration
draws
and exploded
from old and
illegal
new.
immigration. He did the
Home to
opposite of
Native
what we should be
Americans whose
doing.
ancestors have been here for thousands of years. Home to people of every place, from every place on earth. They came freely. Some came in chains. Some came when famine struck, like my ancestral family in Ireland. Some to flee persecution, to chase dreams that are impossible anywhere but here in America. That's America. And we all come from somewhere, but we're all Americans.
There's the guy with the cane.
Look, folks, we have a simple choice. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I'm ready to fix it. Send me the border.
Look at Mike trying so hard to be like, yeah, right. Roll his eyes, shake his head. So performative, bro. Acting like he doesn't want to do it when you're the one who fucked it up.
59 years ago today in Selma, Alabama. Hundreds of foot soldiers for justice marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, to claim their fundamental right to vote. They were beaten, they were bloody, and left for dead. Our late friend and former colleague, John Lewis, was on that march. We miss him.
Hey, he's got a clap. Ha 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 ha.
Tonight, our other marchers, both in the gallery and on the floor, including Betty Mae Fikes, known as the voice
She
of
just sat
Selma,
down.
the daughter of gospel singers and preachers. She sang songs of prayer and protest on that bloody Sunday to help shake the nation's conscience. 5 months later, the Voting Rights Act passed and was signed into law. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hype beast.
But 59 years later, there are forces taking us back in time. Voter suppression, election subversion, unlimited dark money, extreme gerrymandering.
Yeah, take money out of politics.
John Lewis is a great friend to many of us here. But if you truly want to honor him and all the heroes who marched with him, then it's time to do more than talk. Pass the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And stop denying another core value of America, our diversity across American life. Banning books, it's wrong. Instead of erasing history, let's make history. I want to protect fundamental rights. Pass the Equality Act.
Now, see the banning books thing that he just said? That's what they're going to ultra focus on and say that he's pro-pedophile now.
Pass the PRO Act for workers' rights. Raise the federal minimum wage because every worker has a right to a decent living more than $7 an hour. We're also making history by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't think any of you think there's no longer a climate crisis. At least I hope you don't. I'm taking the most significant action ever on climate in the history of the world. I'm cutting our carbon emissions in half by 2030, creating tens of thousands of clean energy jobs like the IBEW work is building and installing 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Conserving 30% of America's lands and waters by 2030. And taking action on environmental justice, fence line communities smothered by the legacy of pollution. And pattern after the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps, I launched the Climate Corps to put 20,000 young people to work in the forefront of our clean energy future. I'll triple that number in a decade. To state the obvious, all Americans deserve the freedom to be safe. And America is safer today than when I took office. The year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up.
Who's yelling?
The biggest increase in history. It was then, through my American Rescue Plan, which every American voted
What
against.
was he even yelling?
We made the largest investment in public safety ever. Last year, the murder rate saw the sharpest decrease in history. Violent crime fell to one of its lowest levels in more than 50 years. But we have more to do. We have to help cities invest in more community police officers, more mental health workers, more community violence intervention. Give communities the tools to crack down on gun crime, retail crime.
I think he yelled, "You want to defund police," when Republicans literally just voted to do that.
Executive action on police reform and calling for it to be the law of the land. Directing my cabinet to review the federal classification of marijuana and expunging thousands of convictions for the mere possession, because no one should be jailed for simply using or have it on their record. Take on crimes of domestic violence. I'm ramping up the federal enforcement of the Violence Against Women Act that I proudly wrote when I was a senator, so we can finally end the scourge against women in America.
Oh, Johnson had to clap because it's women's violence. He can't be seen knowing that.
With us tonight is Jasmine, whose 9-year-old sister Jackie was murdered with 21 classmates and teachers in an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Very soon after that happened, Jill and I went to Uvalde for a couple of days. We spent hours and hours with each of the families. We heard their message, so everyone in this room, in this chamber, could hear the same message. The constant refrain, and I was there for hours meeting with every family. They said, do something. Do something. Well, I did do something by establishing the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the White House, with the Vice President leading the charge. Thank you for doing it. Meanwhile,
This lady next to her is so sick of standing up.
Meanwhile, my predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president.
He banned bump stock.
After another shooting in Iowa recently, he said, when asked what to do about it, he said, just get over it. There's his quote, just get over it. I say, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it.
Stop it now.
I'm proud we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years because of this Congress. We now must beat the NRA again. I'm demanding a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
Not going to happen.
Pass universal background checks. None of this. None of this. I taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. None of this violates the Second Amendment or vilifies responsible gun owners. You know, as we manage challenges at home, we're also managing crises abroad, including in the Middle East. I know the last 5 months have been gut-wrenching for so many people, for the Israeli people, for the Palestinian people, and so many here in America. This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know. 1,200 innocent people, women and girls, men and boys, slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. the deadliest day for the Jewish people
I would have left that
since
part
the
out.
Holocaust, and 250 hostages taken. Here in this chamber tonight are families whose loved ones are still being held by Hamas. I pledge to all the families that we will not rest until we bring every one of your loved ones home. We also work around the clock to bring home Evan and Paul, Americans being unjustly detained by the Russians and others around the world. Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Hamas ended this conflict by releasing hostages, laying down arms, could end it by releasing the hostages, laying down arms, and surrendering those responsible for October 7th. But Israel has Israel has a added burden because Hamas hides and operates among the civilian population like cowards under hospitals, daycare centers, and all the like. Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect innocent civilians in Gaza. This war has taken a greater toll on innocent civilians than all previous wars in Gaza combined.
Thank you. That's what's
More
up.
than 30,000 Palestinians have been
Good.
killed.
See that when he was
Most
mentioning
of
the
whom
Israeli numbers, I
are
was like,
not Hamas.
mention the Palestinian numbers.
Thousands and thousands of innocents, women and children, girls and boys, also orphaned. Nearly 2 million more Palestinians under bombardment or displacement. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods in rubble, cities in ruin. Families without food, water, medicine. It's heartbreaking. I've been working nonstop to
You
establish
just sold them
immediate
more
ceasefire
weapons,
that will
though.
last for 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, all the hostages released, to get the hostages home and ease the intolerable and humanitarian crisis and build toward an enduring, something more enduring. The United States has been leading the international efforts to get more humanitarian assistance to Gaza. Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day. And Israel must do its part. Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian
Must?
workers aren't
They
caught in
won't.
the
What are you going to do
crossfire.
about it? Blinken looks so tired, bro. Blinken is going to retire for sure after this.
The leadership.
It's like Condoleezza Rice. She had such a huge career
Humanitarian
in front of her,
assistance
but then
cannot be a secondary
she wasn't
consideration
planning on
or
being the
bargaining
fucking
chip.
secretary when
Protecting and saving
9/11
innocent
happened,
lives
so
has
she
to be a
retired
priority.
so
As we
quick.
look to the future, the only real solution to the situation
Stop sending bombs.
is a
That's a good
two-state
sign,
solution
too.
over time. And I say this as a lifelong supporter of Israel. My
Cringe.
entire career, no one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here.
Clinton.
I'm the only
Oh,
American
anyone
president
here?
to visit
Okay.
Israel in wartime. But there is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees that Palestinians can live in peace with peace and dignity. There's no other path that guarantees peace between Israel and all of its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, with whom I'm talking. Creating stability in the Middle East also means containing the threat posed by Iran. That's why I build a coalition of more than
Yeah, well, they'll
dozen
do that with the
countries
dock as well.
defend
That's the whole
international
point. He's
shipping
literally telling
and freedom
Israel,
of navigation in the
we're
Red Sea.
circumventing you.
I've ordered strikes to degrade the Houthi capability and defend U.S. forces in the region. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people and our military personnel.
What he should say, he shouldn't have brought up the Houthis. What he should say is when Americans were killed at Tower 22, we had bombers take off from Texas.
For years, I've heard many of my Republican and Democratic friends say that China is on the rise.
No, it's not.
and America's falling behind. They've got it backwards. I've been saying it for over 4 years, even when I wasn't president. America's rising. We have the best economy in the world. And since I've come to office, our GDP is up, our trade deficit with China is down to the lowest point in over a decade. And we're standing up against China's unfair economic practices. We're standing up for peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits. I've revitalized our partnership and alliance in the Pacific. India, Australia, Japan, South Korea, Pacific Islands. I've made sure that the most advanced American technologies can't be used
COVID technically
in
was
China,
a decline, so
not allowing to trade them there. Frankly, for all this tough talk on China, it never occurred to my predecessor to do any of that. I want competition with China, not conflict. And we're in a stronger position to win the conflict of the 21st century against China than anyone else, for that matter, than any time as well. Here at home, I've signed over 400 bipartisan bills. There's more to pass my unity agenda. Strengthen penalties on fentanyl trafficking. You don't want to do that, huh? Pass bipartisan privacy legislation to protect our children online. Harness the promise of AI to protect us from peril. Ban AI voice impersonations and more. And keep our truly sacred obligation to train and equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't. The song Support and Help with Dennis and the VA. I signed the PACT
back to
Act.
live, I guess.
One of the most significant laws ever, helping millions of veterans exposed to toxins who now are battling more than 100 different cancers. Many of them don't come home, but we owe them and their families support. We owe it to ourselves to keep supporting our new health research agency called ARPA-H, and remind us that we can do big things like end cancer as we know it, and we will. Let me close with this. Yeah. I know you don't want to hear any more, Lindsay, but I got to say a few more things. I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future.
Mega Republicans say
My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality, to respect everyone, to give everyone a fair shot, to give hate no safe harbor. Now, other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution, that's not me. I was born amid World War II when America stood for the freedom of the world. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, among working class people who built this country. I watched in horror as two of my heroes, like many of you did, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated. And their legacies inspired me to pursue a career in service. I left the law firm and became a public defender because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard after Dr. King was assassinated because of the riots. And I became a county councilman almost by accident. I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running at age 29. Then vice president of our first black president. Now president to the first women vice president.
the first women vice president. What I'm saying is, I am Martin Luther King.
I've been told I was too young. By the way, they didn't let me on the Senate elevators for votes sometimes. Not a joke. And I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic.
He's killing it again.
I'm optimistic, Nancy.
Well, so I think that's the best performance he's done of that yet, because as I've said many times, the big thing that they wanted to do is say it's wisdom. You know, it's not age, it's wisdom. And I think that was probably his best presentation of that concept so far.
My fellow Americans, the issue facing our nation isn't how old we are. It's how old are our ideas.
Hell yeah,
Hate,
that's a good
anger,
line.
Revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas that only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away.
Yeah, I think last year was still better,
I see a
especially with
future
Marjorie Taylor Greene screeching like a baboon.
where the middle class finally has a fair shot and the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. I see a future where we save the planet from the climate crisis and our country from gun violence. Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
1 hour, 7 minutes long. President Biden speaking before a joint session of Congress, shaking the vice president's hand there. Speaker Mike Johnson's hand as well. There was a lot at stake going into this evening. This is probably the largest, if not one of the largest audiences President Biden will have before the election come November. Came right out of the gate. Looking at Republicans in that room in particular when talking about Vladimir Putin, saying we must help Ukraine, we must fund Ukraine. Putin is on the march. Talked about his predecessor in comments that the former president, Donald Trump, that didn't use his name.
Opening with Ukraine was pretty
Putin
sick.
in recent
and
days.
Basically saying that Putin is
We'll
Hitler.
get to what Trump said about Putin in just a moment here. The president telling the American people in that chamber, the American people, that history is watching. He talked about the overturning of Roe versus Wade, what's followed, the IVF debate in this country. So you can see him begin to leave the chamber here. And he looked right at the Supreme Court justices. He spoke of their decision that said women have electoral power, and he essentially said you're about to see it.
Did
come
Biden
November.
tell us
and on
opinion on
immigration,
Bosch?
which
No.
is
I
certainly
believe
one of
after
the top
this they're
issues,
going to
if
show
not the top
Trump's
issue as we
response to
head into
this.
November.
So we'll see if
The
that
president
happens.
again squarely looking at Republicans in that room, saying we must act on that bipartisan bill out of the Senate from both Republicans, conservative Republicans, and Democrats. Senator Langford looking on. A cutaway of him from Oklahoma, Senator Langford nodding yes. President Biden arguing we could adjudicate asylum seekers in 6 months instead of 6 years with this bill, listing all the other things that come with it too, saying we can fight about the border or we can fix it. We should fix it now. Our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Bernie's got his
shaking
mask
the
off
president's
now.
hand. We know, as I mentioned earlier, Senator Sanders, one of the many offering advice.
Biden would shower with
speech.
Bosch.
I'm curious what you're hearing from your sources. Did he do what they wanted him to do?
I can tell you the White House is very happy right now. I bet there are a lot of high fives going on right now. They knew the challenges going into this. The president well aware of the criticism of his campaign, the pressure on him to perform
A lot
tonight.
of high
The White
fives
House feels
going
that
on.
he nailed this, that he put his critics, on their heels at every turn here. I think the overarching message coming out of this speech was really game on. I mean, it is clear from this speech that the general election is now on. And for months, the president has been criticized for not going hard
here's
enough
the guy with the Ukraine
against Donald
flag.
Trump. There really was a sense tonight that he was ripping the Band-Aid off, that he was letting loose, he was letting out a lot of that frustration. It certainly didn't take him long to tear into Trump on everything from NATO to abortion. He assailed the Trump tax cuts. He skewered him on immigration. And the tone of it was just so classic Biden, right? It wasn't polished, lofty
Jasmine
rhetoric.
Crockett,
It was
though.
folksy,
She's
it was
not cool
personal,
enough
he
to
was
get
funny at
screen
times.
time, I
And
guess.
David, he repeatedly put
Maybe she wasn't
Republicans
there.
on notice. He sparred with them in the room in a way I don't think we've ever seen before at a State of the Union. I mean, at one point, poking them on the immigration bill, he said, "You don't like that bill, huh? The one that you guys wanted, the one that your party negotiated?" He asked them point blankly, what are you against? This felt more like a raucous, rowdy campaign speech than a State of the Union. And I think the big question and challenge going forward is, can the president bring this fire to the trail? Will this Joe Biden show up at those campaign events all the way to November?
Yeah, prodding Republicans, asking them, what in this bill don't you like? Tell me what you don't want, that they've laid out with the help of Senator Langford, who was right in that audience there tonight. John, it was very striking, taking on Donald Trump, but not by name. How many times did he say predecessor tonight?
Hey, look, this was a great night for Joe Biden, and this was much more a campaign speech than a State of the Union address. And you saw that in how he repeatedly took on Donald Trump. By my count, by our count, 16 times did he either say my predecessor, the former president, or other people my age, referring to Donald Trump. Very direct attacks. The most powerful one, the very first one, when he comes out and he first invokes Ronald Reagan, who told the Russians, who told the Soviets, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And then he said, compared to Donald Trump, who tells Putin, do whatever the hell you want. Very pointed, the kind of campaign-style speech you just never have seen in a State of the Union, but I think very effective.
And in fact, what he was talking about is Donald Trump just in recent days
non-binary,
talking about trying to get people to up
bisexual flag that everyone has is supposed to be bipartisanship,
which has been a long-standing argument for Donald Trump, and one that even President Biden has talked about, making sure everybody pays the fair share. But it was that turn when Donald Trump then said, if they don't do it, well then,
I'd say do whatever the hell you'd want
to Vladimir Putin.
Look, but you have to remember, I think this was a great night for Joe Biden. I don't know if it was a home run, but it certainly was a triple. But one factor to consider here, he's been practicing for this speech. This is home turf. He knew the responses. The Republicans are very predictable. This audience is a very predictable audience. He knew the taunts that were going to come, and he knew that what he was going to do in response. And the way he directly took on Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No, there's no question about that. He knew that
was
coming
down.
on
Don't come in your
immigration.
pants. I want to know who's this bug-eyed lady I keep seeing.
In real time.
Who's this lady over here to the left?
That's the caution.
It will not be.
It will not be so terrific. But this was a very big night for Biden.
No question about that. Lindsay Davis also with us here at the desk. And Lindsay, that moment, very rare for a president to look right at members of the Supreme Court sitting before them. But he did, and he talked about the overturning.
She's very
of Roe v.
nervous
Wade.
about
He urged
looking
Congress,
directly into the
let's
camera and
codify
keeps
Roe v.
doing it
Wade.
and then looks
Obviously,
away.
that's not going to happen. But he mentioned that in their decision on Roe v. Wade, that they talked about the power women have, the electoral power they have, and then he ran with it.
So significant in that moment for him to look at the justices directly in the room and talk about that. And specifically, he said, look, the power of women, that when reproductive freedom was on the ballot, we won in 2022, 2023, and we will win again in 2024. And it's important to note that abortion may be on the ballot in as many as 11 states, including the battleground states of Arizona and Nevada. And so potentially that could determine the election, right? If that really brings people out in those two particular states. But I do want to add, though, David, I think that even beyond these big ticket items of abortion or immigration or economy, in many cases, this was about the elephant in the room, if you will, about his age and those people who have said that they voted for Biden the last time around, 61% of them, according to the New York Times, who said that they thought that he was too old to be an effective president. And it seemed he really ate his Wheaties today, right? I mean, he had that fire in the belly.
Oh my
He
God.
had, the quick
It's drugs,
zingers,
lady.
and he addressed, for many accounts, directly head on, the issue of his age, saying it's not about how old we are, it's about how old our ideas are.
No question about that, Lindsay. Taking on the issue of age and
No
saving it
question
really
about
to
that,
the very end of the speech, saying, you know,
No
I know I
question
may
about
not look
that.
like it, but I've been around for a while, using a little
Yeah,
humor
we've
to
heard
address
that
it.
line.
I want to get reaction from Donna Brazile, former head of the DNC, of course, an advisor to Democrats along the way, and this administration as well. I'm so curious, Donna, what your advice was them leading up to tonight, and did he deliver in your eyes?
I mean, look, he had to pour some Tabasco in his speech, and I think he delivered it very well. It
Oh
was
my
spicy,
God, they're
it was
so
juicy.
cringe.
It was another
No
masterclass. And how do you
katana.
defend your
No
values? How do
katana.
you
Okay,
tell
I
the
won't
American
use the
people,
katana.
because of you, we're stronger. Because of you, we're fighting harder.
Who's
It
this
was
lady? She's
quintessential
so
Joe
weird.
Biden.
Why is she
Politics is in his
eyeballing me
blood
like
and his
that?
DNA, and tonight we saw why he was elected president.
Let me ask you, Donna, for those at home who might ask, why not a performance like this in other moments along the way? Where did this come from tonight? What in
Oh, head of the
particular about
Progressive
this?
Caucus there.
He was speaking to the American people, and also he was speaking truth to power, looking at the Supreme Court. He said every last word I would have said to John Roberts if I had the opportunity. So tonight, women and,
John, you're
of course,
diabetic.
men who love us and support us
No, I'm not.
understand that Joe Biden is going to fight for women. He's going to fight for our reproductive health. What I loved about the president tonight
She's
is
the
that he
one
got
that
up and
gave
the first
Hillary
thing
the
he said
debate
was to
questions
Mr.
prior to
Putin
the
was that,
debate.
I see you, and we're going to defend Ukraine.
Is
It was a
she?
great speech, a great night for Joe Biden, but Joe Biden shows up
Why
every
is she
day of
so
his life.
shifty?
Whether he
I
shows
don't
up
trust her.
in the morning, and by the way, it's oatmeal, not Wheaties. I've had
And
the
she
pleasure,
would know.
I've
Donna
had the
would know.
pleasure of having breakfast, and I wanted grits, and he had oatmeal.
Did-
But
did-
he showed up tonight, and he's going to show up every day. And what you're going to see on the campaign trail is not just the president, the vice president, and everyone else who's going to stand up for democracy and freedom.
Did he kickstart this campaign tonight?
The campaign was already underway. I think tonight he gave us a little gas in our tank.
Reince Priebus, former head of the RNC, former chief of staff to Donald Trump. What was your take on tonight?
Well, it sounded a lot like a DNC speech, like a convention speech, a political speech. I think it was a health and wellness check. I think everyone was
Oh
right
my
about
God,
that.
I hate these people
I think
so
he
much.
passed the health and wellness check tonight. Clearly excited, perhaps overcompensating, maybe yelling quite a bit. I think you're going to see a lot of people talking about the screaming and yelling. But I also think he runs a risk of trying to paint a picture that the American people don't buy. This idea that the economy is booming, that the border is secure, and it's only because the Republicans won't pass a bill, and America is dominant on the world stage. And so I think he overplayed that quite a bit. I don't think that's what Americans are feeling out there. But as far as a health and wellness check, yeah, I think he did that tonight.
Let me ask you, Ryan, you're still closely connected to people who are working within the Trump campaign. The national polls as they stand right now, and we're really far out, we all know that, but they are very close. Donald Trump leading in some of the major polls in the last 2 weeks.
Has
and
he
in the
not
battleground
moved, or is
states,
she
but
following
again,
him?
a very close race. Is that the sense even inside Trump world?
Yeah,
Just how close this is?
Absolutely. I mean, there is no feeling like this is, a blowout. I think people in the Trump operation know that it's going to be close. They know that it's going to come down to 100,000 votes in 5 states. It's all going to be about data, ground game, and turnout, and that's what they know is happening.
Reince Priebus, Donna Brazile, both with us here as we cover this, and we're preparing for the Republican response. We should let you all know at home. We will bring that to you as well, with a rising star in the Republican Party. We continue to watch President Biden in that room here tonight. And Martha Raddatz, there were so many questions going into tonight, obviously about age in this country, even from President Biden's supporters. You've traveled the country leading up to the primaries. He was uncontested. I mean, obviously the final candidate dropped out. But even supporters of Biden, when they leave, telling the exit polls that they were concerned about his age as well. Did he assuage those concerns tonight with his performance here?
Well, he certainly was vigorous. It was a campaign speech. It was probably for the Democrats a dream campaign speech because of his energy. I don't know whether he was really screaming riots, but he was definitely raising the level of his voice. And I think that probably because he often does clear his throat. He does have problems with his voice sometimes. He didn't seem to have a lot of problems tonight.
Are
but
you
I also
kidding?
think this speech was more than just a campaign speech. It was a legacy speech. No matter what happens in November, Joe Biden
he
laid
giving
down the hammer
autographs?
tonight about what he believes and what he feels about this country. So I think that Democrats will look at it as that as well. And that's why Joe Biden probably really rose to this moment. He knew not only from a campaign speech how important it was, but for his own legacy. David.
And I suspect, Martha, that we heard the
Santos is
beginning
running
of
for
what will be
Congress
a
again.
major campaign theme here. At the
That's
end of
why
the
he
speech,
showed
when he
up
said
to get
it's not how
attention.
old
He's
you
just
are,
he's just getting
it's how old
attention,
your
guys.
ideas are. And he tried to reframe this age debate.
That's exactly right. And I think his campaign people have been saying again and again, and people within the White House, I know there has been some disagreement about how they are handling that age issue. You can't ignore it. He can't ignore it. And in the
Ooh,
next few
little
weeks,
handsy
he may
lady.
stumble, he may make mistakes, and it'll come back to that age issue again. But for tonight,
Wow,
he
these
put
women
that
want to
rest
fuck him
in
so
many
hard.
ways.
I want to bring in Terry Moran, who has
They want
covered
him.
multiple presidencies
Look at- you
here
can
in
tell.
Washington. Terry, you knew the stakes going into tonight. And
That guy
it's
behind
not
him, too.
hyperbole to talk about the high wire act that President Biden was walking into that chamber to try to perform. Did he deliver?
It sure was a high wire act. And I think the fair thing to say, a lot of Democrats over the past few weeks have been panicking. I'll bet the vast majority of them feel better tonight because the president did hit hard. You know, you can talk about his performance all you want, but I think more importantly, what he did. This was the old-time religion, the middle class, working class, labor, Democrat agenda. And he reached for it again and again and again, both in terms of the values, that line, you can't love your country only when you win. The best line of the speech. Fair play and decency are bedrock values of the middle class. No matter who people voted for, the notion that you don't love your country if you guys lose, it doesn't sit well with them. And then right across that economic agenda, hitting again and again and again, middle class values.
With just a few seconds left in this segment, Pierre Thomas, Chief Justice Correspondent, President Biden making it very clear tonight, defending democracy will be a key theme right into November.
Absolutely. He went very hard on the issue of January 6th in terms of the attack on the Capitol. He wanted to make sure that everyone in the public was reminded of that, pointing to Congress to let them know that they were scurrying for their lives, pointing that out as well, David. Also, it struck
There's
me
this
that
great
this was a
moment with
president, particularly in regards to the
Larry.
House Republicans who have been trying
Larry
to impeach
Fillmore or
him.
something
He really
with Bernie
wanted to take
Sanders.
them on head on and let them know he really
And
didn't
he got
care
Bernie
that much about
Sanders
how
to
they
say,
felt
like,
about what he
his
was saying,
proposals
David.
are on
President
fleek.
Biden with a smile on his face there as he leaves the chamber. And when we come back here, the Republican response tonight from a rising star in the Republican Party, as I mentioned, Alabama Senator Katie Britt. She's a mother of two. She's just 42 years old, the youngest Republican woman ever elected to the Senate. We're going to go to break here for just a moment because she's getting ready to now speak to the American people. The Republican response to President Biden right after the break. Don't go away. ABC
we're
News
ready.
live coverage of the State of the
Moments
Union.
from now, she is a rising star in the Republican Party.
Dog died, fish died, mom died, plane crashed, train derailed, kids gay. Here we go. He's
He's
still
having a bit of an after-hours party, Martha
talking.
Raddatz. Clearly enjoying the moment in that chamber. We have talked often. He spoke of it tonight, about the length of his career, how many years he spent up on that hill even before he was vice president. Talked about the history of being vice president to the first black president and now having the first woman vice president behind him. That was also a moment toward the end of the speech. Mary Brewster, you're learning more from the White House tonight and from the Biden campaign about what they believe he had to do tonight and whether he delivered.
They certainly do think he delivered. Look, they were well aware of how pivotal and important this moment was. And they do think that he absolutely nailed it. I mean, they feel that he outlined the stakes in this election, that he noted his accomplishments, but also made very clear the stark choice before voters.
And Rachel Scott, just a few seconds there in the chamber, the mood?
Well, Republicans have headed for the exits, and this is typical Joe Biden. You see him shaking hands with Democrats, members of the military that have stuck around here. The president going toe to toe with many Republicans here, as you have all noted, on immigration, on Medicare, Social Security as well. Divisions on full display, but you heard those chants of 4 more years from Democrats. Reminder of the stakes.
Rachel Scott in the chamber. Rachel, thank you. Senator Katie Britt, now
Selfie
Republican
culture's
star,
gotta
will
go.
deliver the Republican response. She is a mother of 2. She'll be speaking from Montgomery, Alabama. You see the live picture right now coming up before you.
She's a mother of 2? Who cares?
Good evening, America. My name is Katie Britt, and I have the honor of serving the people of the great state of Alabama
Don't
in the
trust her.
United States Senate.
Alabama?
However, that's not the job that matters most. I am a proud wife and mom of
Okay,
2
bye.
school-aged kids.
Okay,
My
your
daughter
job
Bennett
for the American
and my
people
son Ridgway
doesn't matter
are
to
why
you.
I
Okay,
ran
good
for
to
the
know.
Senate.
Definitely not voting for you if
I'm
I could.
worried about their future and the future of children in every corner of
They're
our
gonna be
nation.
gay soon.
And that's why I invited you into our home tonight. Like so many families across America, my husband Wesley and I just watched President Biden's State of the Union address from our living room.
Okay.
And what we saw was the performance of a permanent politician
Father of
who has
none, where's my
actually
TV
been in
parents?
office for longer than I've been alive.
Ooh.
One thing was quite clear, though. President
Somebody
Biden
didn't get a
doesn't
drink
get
of
it.
water before talking?
He's out of touch. Under his administration, families are worse off.
Bro,
Our
you're from
communities are
Alabama,
less
where they
safe,
just
and
banned in
our
vitro
country is less
fertilization. You have no
secure.
room to talk about family.
I just wish he understood what real families are facing around kitchen tables just like this one. You know, this is where our family has tough
That's a counter.
conversations. It's where we make hard
Oh, you're
decisions.
sitting at a table. Is
It's
that your
where
table?
we share the good,
You're
the
literally
bad,
sitting
and
at your
the
kitchen
ugly
table.
of our days. It's
How
where we laugh
performative.
together, and it's where we hold each other's hands and pray for God's guidance.
Oh, fuck
And many
off.
nights, to be honest, it's where Wesley
God
and I
hates
worry.
you because of how you're lying and being
I know we're not
performative right
alone.
now.
And so tonight, the American family needs to have a
This is
tough
kayfabe.
conversation. Because the truth is,
It's true.
we're all worried about the future of our nation. The country we know and love seems to be slipping away, and it feels like the next generation will have
You know
fewer
she's a bad
opportunities
wife
and
because
less
all she does
freedoms
is
than we
gaslight
did.
her husband.
I worry my own children may not even get a shot at living their American dreams.
No, you don't.
My American dream allowed me, the daughter of 2 small business owners from rural Enterprise, Alabama, to be elected to the United States Senate at the age of 40. Growing up, sweeping the floor at my dad's hardware store and cleaning the bathroom at my mom's dance
She looks
studio,
good for 40.
I never could have imagined what my story would entail.
Now
To
I'm here
think
lying to
about
all
what
of
the American
you.
dream can do across just one generation.
That's the only that
in
like the
just
main
one
the main thing
lifetime.
that pulls me in
It's
with
truly
Biden
breathtaking.
is
But
how honest he
right
is. I'm not
now,
saying he doesn't lie,
the
of course,
American
because
dream
he's a
has
politician.
turned into a
But
nightmare
you catch him where he'll just
for
decide to
so
tell the truth,
many
and then they'll
families.
immediately be like, "He did not
The
say
true
that. You did not hear the words that
unvarnished
came out of
state
his
of our
mouth."
union begins and ends with this. Our
Who's this broad?
families
This is the
are
official
hurting.
Republican Party response.
Our
The official Republican Dominionist Party response was to choose this lady from the state who just banned IVF to give the speech about
Yet,
this.
President Biden inherited the most secure border of all time.
Again, more
But minutes
illegal
after
immigrants
taking
under Trump.
office,
It's just a
He
fact.
suspended all deportations. He halted construction of the border wall.
No, he didn't.
And
He built more than
announced
Trump.
a plan to give amnesty to millions. We know that President Biden didn't just create this border crisis. He invited it with 94 executive actions in his first 100 days.
Uh-huh.
When I took office, I took a different approach. I traveled to the Del Rio sector of Texas.
You're from
That's where
Alabama.
I spoke to a woman who shared her story. with me.
Does this lady know that New York
She
gets
had
way more
been
immigration than
sex-trafficked
Texas?
by the cartels starting at the age of 12.
California and New York,
She
way
told
more
me
immigration
not
than
just that
Texas.
she was raped every day, but how many times
Oh,
a
here we
day
go.
she was raped. The cartels put her on a mattress in a shoebox of a room.
What?
And
This
they
is
sent
weird.
men through that door.
They're the fucking
over and
fetish
over again
material that these people
for
always want to be
hours
doing.
and hours on end. We wouldn't be okay with this happening in a third world country. This is the United States of
Source
America.
where this
and
happened,
it is
please.
past time, in my opinion, that we start acting like it. President Biden's border
Chris Kyle is an
policies
American hero.
are a disgrace. This crisis is despicable.
He shot
And
people
the
during
truth is,
Hurricane
it is
Katrina.
almost entirely preventable. From fentanyl poisonings to horrific murders,
I hope your children take fentanyl.
there are empty chairs tonight at kitchen tables, just like this one, because of President Biden's senseless border policies.
Oh my God, bro.
Just think about Laken Riley. In
Stop.
my neighboring state of Georgia,
I told y'all this was going to happen.
beautiful 22-year-old nursing student
She's
went
the
out
new
on a
Ashley
jog one
Babbitt.
morning,
This is their token woman
but
now.
she never got the opportunity to return home. She was brutally murdered by one of the millions of illegal border crossers President Biden chose to release into our homeland. Y'all, as a mom,
Porno acting.
I can't quit thinking about this.
Yeah,
I mean, this could have
and
been
she's like,
my
and now
daughter.
I'm gonna get tied to the
This could have
mattress.
been
Like, what is
yours.
happening?
And tonight, President Biden finally said her name. But he refused to take responsibility for his own actions. Mr. President, enough is enough. Innocent Americans are dying, and you only have yourself to blame.
This is better. This is the
Fulfill
best
your
part.
oath of office. Reverse your policies. End this crisis and stop
You literally voted
the
to end those
suffering.
policies. You could have. You literally. It's literally not
Sadly,
him. You voted. You
we
voted to
know
keep
that
that border
President
open,
Biden's
lady.
failures don't stop there. His reckless spending dug our economy into a hole and
No, it
sent
didn't.
the cost of living through the roof.
No, the cost of
We
living is
have
always
the
rising.
worst
That's how
inflation
inflation
in
works.
40 years.
Currency.
And the
See, honey,
highest
listen.
credit card
Currency,
debt in
it
our
has to
nation's
devalue over time to
history.
encourage
Let that
spending to
sink
keep
in.
the economy flowing. It's basic
Hardworking
economics.
families are struggling to make ends
That's
meet
why crypto doesn't work.
today. And with soaring mortgage rates and sky-high childcare costs, they're also struggling to how to plan for tomorrow. The American people are scraping by, while President Biden proudly proclaims that
I'll let you out after this,
Bidenomics
Conchilla.
is working. Goodness, y'all, bless his heart. We know better.
Uh-huh.
I'll never forget stopping at a gas station in Chilton County one evening.
This
The
didn't
gentleman
happen.
working the counter told me that after retiring, he had to pick up a job in his 70s so that he didn't have to choose between going hungry or going without his medication.
Wow.
He said,
You mean so Biden lowering medication would help this guy?
I
Okay.
worked hard. I
Great,
saved.
great,
I was responsible.
great anecdotal to make up.
He's
You
not
fucked up
alone.
there for sure.
I hear similar concerns from fellow parents, whether I am walking with my friends or whether I'm
I gotta
at my
pull up
kids'
stuff
games.
of her in Congress to see her talking.
But let's be honest, it's been a minute since Joe Biden pumped gas, ran a carpool, or even pushed a
Yeah, because
grocery
when
cart.
he's not allowed to.
Meanwhile, the rest of us see our dollar and we know it
You
doesn't
don't.
go as far. We see it every day.
Look at the fucking fruit
And
bowl behind her.
despite what he tells you, our communities are not safer. For
Well,
years,
maybe your
the
party
left
shouldn't have
has
defunded the
coddled
police.
criminals and defunded the police.
That's a
all
green
while
screen. She
letting
probably lives on
repeat
Epstein
offenders
Island.
walk free. The result is tragic, but foreseeable. From our small towns to America's most iconic city streets, life is getting more and more dangerous. And unfortunately, President Biden's weakness isn't just hurting families here at home. He is making us a punchline on the world stage. Look, where I'm from, your word is
Trump
your
was.
bond. But for 3 years, the president has demonstrated that America's word doesn't mean what it used to.
That's Trump.
From abandoning our allies in his disastrous
That's Trump.
withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Okay. Trump did the Doha talks as well.
Pushing
That's Trump.
another dangerous deal with Iran.
Okay.
President Biden has failed. We've become a nation in retreat. And the enemies of freedom, they see an opportunity.
You mean like you retreated from ISIS
Putin's
under Trump?
brutal aggression in Europe has put our allies on the brink.
And
Iran's
who
terrorist
wants to
proxies
leave?
have slaughtered Israeli
And who bombed
Jews
Iran's
and
terrorist
American
proxies so
citizens.
they stopped fighting?
They've targeted commercial shipping, and they've attacked our troops nearly 200 times since
Yeah,
October,
and who stopped them from doing
killing
those attacks?
3 U.S. soldiers and
And then
2
what happened?
Navy SEALs.
And then what
Meanwhile,
happened?
The Chinese Communist Party is
Uh-oh.
undercutting America's workers.
Uh-oh.
China is buying up our farmland,
Uh-oh.
spying on our military installations, and
What's
spreading
interesting is like
propaganda
you
through
can
the
go
likes of TikTok.
you can go look at our interview with Emma, who
see,
works in
the
Okinawa,
CCP
right?
knows
She talks about how Chinese spies are
if
always
it
outside the base.
conquers
So this
the
narrative of
minds
them
our
buying
next
farmlands, like
generation,
you can literally just go spy on the military base. They're not going to
conquers
stop you. That's like what are they going to do? Tell you have to keep moving and you
what
can't take
does
pictures of
President
a military
Biden
facility?
do? Well, he bans TikTok for government employees, but creates an account for his own campaign. Y'all, you can't make this stuff up. Look,
you can't make this stuff up. He campaigned on
national
TikTok.
security threats with strength and resolve. That seems like ancient history.
Did she say something about Ukraine?
Our commander-in-chief
I missed it.
is not in command. The free world deserves better than a dithering and diminished leader.
Are those the bugs from
America deserves
Helldivers? I don't
leaders
know what
who
those are.
recognize that secure borders, stable prices, safe streets, and a strong defense are actually the cornerstones
Really, that she's showing
of a
how she
great
really lays it
nation.
down there.
Just ask yourself, are you better off now than you were 3 years ago?
Considering COVID was 3 years ago, yes, everyone
There's
is better
no
off.
doubt
What a dumbass.
We're at a crossroads, and it doesn't have to be this way. We all feel it.
No.
But here's the good news. We, the people, are still in the driver's seat.
No.
We get to decide whether our future will grow brighter or whether we'll settle for an America in decline.
Okay.
Well, I
Did
know
you hear that
which
swallow?
choice our
Give this
children
woman some
deserve.
water.
And I know the choice the Republican Party is fighting for. We are the party of hard-working parents and families.
You're the party of like
and we
not
want
enough
to give
blinking
you
to me.
and your children the opportunities to thrive. And we want families to grow. It's why we strongly support continued nationwide access to in vitro fertilization. We want to help
You're
loving moms
Alabama.
and dads bring precious life into this
You're
world.
Alabama, lady. They
Wesley and
literally
I
could
believe
not have
there is
picked
no
worse
greater
optics for
blessing
this.
in life than our children. And that's why tonight I want to make a direct appeal to the parents out there, and in particular to my fellow moms, many of whom I know will be up tossing and turning at 2 a.m., wondering how you're going to be
Lady,
in
you're
3
as fake
places
as
at
your
once and then somehow still get dinner on the table. First of all, we see you.
Do you still cook dinner?
We hear you.
Weird.
And we stand with you. I know You're frustrated.
Oh my God.
I know you're probably disgusted by most of what you see going on in Washington, and I'll be really honest with you. You're not wrong for feeling that way. Look, I get it. The task in front of us isn't an easy one, but I can promise you one thing.
Another perk about Biden be like too old to talk. He has no time to like try and act. You know, he just has to get the words out. He can't be pretending like this.
Into the arena. Every generation has been called to do hard things.
You're talking about the
American
IVF
greatness
polls?
Rest in the fact that we always
Universal mental health
answer
care.
that call. It's who we are.
It's ASMR, bro.
Never forget, we are
The
steeped
swallowing.
in the blood of patriots who overthrew the most powerful
Blood and soil, bro.
empire
She's
in the
invoking
world.
blood and soil.
We walk in the footsteps of pioneers who tamed the wild. We now carry forward the same flame of freedom as the liberators of an oppressed Europe. We continue
You mean,
to
didn't
draw
Biden
courage
just invoke Hitler?
from
Now
those
you're
who
doing that
bent
too?
the
Are you
moral
sure you
arc
watched the
of
speech,
the
lady?
universe. And when we gaze upon the heavens, never forget that our DNA contains the same ingenuity that put man on the moon. America has been tested before, and every single time we've emerged
I'm not going to join your
unbowed
MLM
and
lady. Leave me
unbroken.
alone. I bet you that's her
Our
history.
history has been written with the grit of men and women who got knocked down.
No, they didn't.
But we know their stories.
You mean the
because
Confederates?
They did not
Are you
stay
talking
down.
about are you talking about the Southern
We
history?
are here because they stood back up.
The
So now
Confederates?
it's our turn.
No, America
Our
has never been
moment
knocked
to
down,
stand up
sweetie.
and prove ourselves worthy of protecting the American dream. Together, we can reawaken the heroic spirit of a
Okay.
great nation.
Blood and soil shit.
Because America, we don't just have a rendezvous with destiny. We take destiny's hand and we lead it. Our future starts around kitchen tables just like this, with moms and dads just like you. And you are why I believe with every fiber of my being that despite the current state of our union, our best days are still ahead. May God bless you, and may God
Great
continue
Russian is one
to
of the reasons
bless
we won the
these
Revolutionary War.
United States of America.
And there you have it, Senator Katie Britt from Alabama at 42 years old, the youngest Republican elected to the Senate, giving the Republican response tonight to President Biden's State of the Union address from her kitchen there in Alabama. And I want to get right over to John Carl before we say goodnight here, because we have first
What is
reaction
that?
in
You got a little
from former
square
President
man.
Trump to President Biden's speech tonight.
May not surprise you, but Donald Trump didn't like the speech. He
Uh-huh.
reacted by calling it the angriest, least compassionate, and worst State of the Union speech ever made.
Okay, the race is underway, isn't it? John Carl, Mary Bruce, Lindsay Davis, Martha Raddatz, you guys make this so easy up here. And Donna Brazil, Reince Priebus, always great to have your
She probably has
analysis
I
of
was
these big
thinking, like, when
political
she was
nights.
talking
Thank
about
you-
cooking,
thank
I was like,
all.
you don't
And we
cook.
leave you tonight with this very telling image from just moments ago in the chamber. President Biden, almost the last person to leave that chamber tonight. The lights appear to have been turned off in the chamber. People still asking for selfies. After having
Oh,
given
he's
the
so
State of the Union
charismatic,
tonight. Our
just
coverage
like
continues.
Bashar
ABC News
al-Assad.
Live, abcnews.com. Of course, Good Morning America first thing in the morning. And as the president leaves, so do we. Your local news is next for many of you. I'm David Muir. I'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.
Great stream, folks. Thanks for coming out. Now I have to go edit both of them together. Bye-bye. Oh, hang on. I haven't even fixed this thing yet.
And you got a lot of them. I love dogs. You love dogs.